All right, is this year, this coming season, setting up to be the best ever for Myles Garrett?
G, you want to start? You want me to start?
Yeah, I think this year it's so much on the line. Like usually year after year goes by, and you get excited for the Browns around this time. And in the last couple of years, we've been over the top joyous about the Browns because they brought in big names. We felt we had a franchise quarterback in Baker Mayfield. We made the playoffs. So we've been in the last 5 or so years with these expectation levels. But for myself, I just think this year is special. You take a look at, Jim Donovan going through it, and he's going to go through it, and he's going to still call these games.
Sure.
He's going to still, you look at the passing of Jim Brown. They're going to probably honor him throughout the season. You look at the culmination of this being a make or break year for Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, and they've tried to do what they can in making this roster better. And then you got Deshaun Watson, first full year under center, and you get an opportunity to see if he's going to bounce back. But for me, I think this year is going to be very special. It's either going to be a make or break year for a lot of people, and I think for Myles Garrett, this is a make or break year when it comes to him putting himself in that level. Right now, he's a great player, and he's an all-time great for the Browns. But he's made no qualms about it. He said up front, I want to be one of the best to ever put the pads on at my position group, right? And so we talked about just a few seconds ago where he's at in that pecking order. And this year, he's going to have one of the best opportunities he's ever going to have to do it. Darius Smith, Obo on the other side. You got 2 pass rushers, and one guy is Darius Smith, who's put up large numbers. The best pass rusher, in my opinion, that Myles Garrett has ever played with by far.
Not even close.
Not even close. Tomlinson is a guy that's going to be in the middle. That now you can't just be taking up. Myles Garrett ain't going to get triple teamed because guess what? You got other guys that can make plays. They put him around some of those guys, and I think Jim Schwartz, as I'm looking at it, and I've been just really just in the lab studying the way he goes about putting people in a place. He's not gonna blitz all the time, and that's not what we're saying. But what he is going to do is he's going to take his best players and he's going to say, I'm going to use my natural cheat code. Y'all ain't been using Myles Garrett right.
Yeah.
I got a cheat code. Y'all been lining him up straight up. I ain't never going to line up straight up with him. I'm going to have him with a 3 technique. I'm going to have him moving around. Maybe one day he might be standing up. I don't want you ever to know where Myles Garrett is. And if he can do that, it's going to open him up to play a style of football that now you talk about the way Lawrence Taylor used to play, where you don't know where Lawrence Taylor is.
Unpredictable.
It's unpredictable.
Yeah.
Like, he play outside linebacker, but Lawrence Taylor play everything.
Yeah, I like that. Makes perfect sense. McNuggets?
Yeah, I don't just agree with G. Bush. I'm going to take it to the next level. This is not only his best chance at having a career season, this is his best chance and probably his last best chance to win Defensive Player of the Year award, which is something he's mentioned that he is a personal goal of his for a couple of reasons. One, last year he had 16 sacks. It's tied for second in the league, despite facing the most double teams of any defensive end in football, according to PFF. So despite being double teamed and the only priority for opposing offensive lines, he still finished with 16 sacks, second most in the league. He also had the highest pass rush win rate at 26.5 last year, facing these double teams. Well, you can't double team him this year every play with the addition of Zadarius Smith, Obo, Tomlinson, Ika, who I do think is a better pass rusher than he gets credit for, Alex Wright, Isaiah McGuire, with all those additions. And if you do decide to still double team Myles Garrett, which I'm not going to blame offensive coordinators for, you're going to leave Zadarius Smith or Obo or one of those guys against a tight end or a running back in one-on-one coverage, which is essentially suicide for the opposing offense. So he had a 26.5 pass rush win rate last year based off double teams and beating double teams. I don't think it's crazy to think that based on having more single coverages and one-on-one opportunities to get to the quarterback, he can't be in the 30%, which would break PFF's record. And he had 16 sacks last year, facing the most double teams, without any help from anyone else on the defensive line. Taven Bryan was second on the team in sacks last year with 3. I'm not calling it. I wouldn't bet on it, but it also would not shock me if he broke the single-season sack record this year. I'm serious. It would not shock me. I don't think – I wouldn't put my name on it. I wouldn't put money on it, but it's 22.5. I don't think it's absurd to think he could have –
Should be 21.5.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's absurd for him to have 5-6 more sacks with all the other options on this defensive line. And as you alluded to, Jim Schwartz is going to mix and match him around. He's not always going to be over the right tackle, rushing from that left end position. He's going to be used on the interior, where he is so much more athletic than guards and centers. He'll be used on the same side as Darius Smith. How the hell are you going to block those two when they're both healthy coming at the quarterback? So I'm not calling it, but it definitely would not shock me if we end the season with Myles Garrett being not only Defensive Player of the Year, but holding the NFL single-season sack record.
All right, we're having too much agreement here this morning.
Did we share notes beforehand?
I know. I promise you I will disagree on some Guardian stuff and some Nugget stuff.
Right.
Even if I don't believe it, I will be the contrarian.
I want to disagree with you
sake.
guys somewhere, and the reason I do is because I don't want to be that guy that every year says, "Oh, this Super Bowl, baby,
Super Browns."
I mean,
But it's this year a break. I think
I
if
understand
we're in this
that.
situation next year, we're having different conversations if it doesn't go how we anticipate.
yes. So I'll cherry pick off part of what you said and part of what you said. When you look at the layout of how this season is shaping up before we even get into the schedule, Stefanski's on the hot seat. Andrew Berry's on the hot seat.
Facts.
There are players in this organization that are very much on the hot seat. This either comes together and works, or the 2024 Browns, in my view, will look dramatically different.
Facts.
Dramatically different. So Deshaun Watson, lot of pressure on him.
Huge.
He has got to return to the Houston Texans form that had him in the MVP conversation.
Yep.
Facts.
So because all of these things aren't within the next 2 years or the next 3 years or the next 5 years, it's this year. Mm-hmm. I think that there's going to be a different feeling in July when these guys come back full force, ready to get ready for the season. It's going to feel different in Berea. It's not going to be a loosey-goosey, we're house money kind of deal. It's going to be, guys, it's time to put up or shut up, because this is it. For this group, for this core, we got to do it now, because everybody's getting long in the tooth. The contracts are getting a little uncomfortable when it comes to the salary cap. So the pressure for them to do it is probably as high now as it's been at any time in the last decade, even after they came back when Baker took them in the playoffs the year before.
Yeah.
I think it's even more than that, because they're coming off 2 disappointing seasons in a row. And Kevin Stefanski needs his genius credentials checked.
Yep.
He was coach of the year in his first year. It has not gone as planned the last 2. 3 in a row is a problem. It usually costs a coach a job.
Yeah.
So all of that being said, the table is set. But then I'm going to go off what you said. You can't. It's now pick your poison with this club. Last year, teams were like, they have no one on their defensive front that scares us.
At all.
No one not wearing the jersey number 95. So they put all of their resources into stopping 95, and he still had a Pro Bowl season.
All pro.
All pro. So now what you're looking at is you bring in all of these reinforcement troops to bring in waves of fresh legs on the defensive front. To your point, you want to double team them? You're going to learn to live with the consequences from the other guys. If you decide you're going to try to handle them on a single team, it better be an all-pro offensive lineman that handles him.
Damn straight.
Because that's what it's going to take to keep him down. All of that being said, wouldn't be surprised at all if he had at least 20 sacks. I think it's in the cards where he could break the all-time single-season sack record, which would need 23 sacks to do that. But with the added game, the 17-game schedule now, it's a little more than a sack a game. I think it's doable for him.
Yeah.
I think that there's no reason at all to believe why he couldn't be in the Defensive Player of the Year running. And if all of that happens, I think we're talking about an 11-6, a 12-5, and a trip to the playoffs.
And one more thing I didn't mention. We all are in agreement, or Jay, I think you are, that Watson's going to be pretty damn good this year. That we think he can get, and I don't want.
I'm still hopeful. I'm not confident.
Fair, and I don't want to sidetrack this, but
Right.
if Watson's good,
Yes.
the Browns should be able to score a lot of points this year.
That's the hope.
And they'll be ahead in a lot of games, unlike last year where they were coming from behind.
Correct.
And that leads to more passing opportunities and pass rushing opportunities, to G's point, for Myles Garrett to get after the quarterback.
Right. When a team's running it 12 times in a row,
Yeah.
Myles Garrett, you might as well take Myles Garrett and
Can't get a
send him
sack.
to the locker room.
Exactly.
Because he's essentially rendered ineffective. And so if you're putting your opponent down more than a score in the second half, now instead of your quarterback having 22 dropbacks, he might have 32.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
obviously increases the chances.
Let me
for
ask you
sacks.
guys this, just for a little, hopefully a little dissension. We're not all in agreement here. What's more likely this year? Myles Garrett breaks the sack record or doesn't lead the Browns in sacks?
Oh, he'll lead the Browns in sacks.
Yeah, I think he's going to lead in sacks. The sack
Oh,
record.
no. Or someone else will lead the Browns in sacks. So either Myles Garrett breaks the sack record or someone not named Myles Garrett leads the Browns in sacks.
Okay. So
Sorry,
flip it.
Sorry, yes.
Ooh.
I just thought of that.
More likely?
I don't know that either one's going to happen. I just, barring an injury, which you can never predict,
Yeah.
95 is leading the Browns in sacks.
But so I'm saying, what's more likely, the fact that he breaks the record or Zadarius Smith?
Because I don't think I think there's no chance at all anyone on the Browns gets more sacks than Myles Garrett if Myles Garrett plays the bulk of the games.
Do you agree with that, G?
Yeah, I haven't. It's too hard because I haven't envisioned it. I haven't seen it, and I know Zadarius Smith can. Right. I mean, I went back and watched all his games from Green Bay. And
Powerful.
He's just. I mean, he's versatile. He's another guy he does his best pass rushing over guards. He has speed. He transitions to power very well. And this is a guy. How many? He's at 8 seasons. He has 54.5 sacks right now. You take a look. This guy is a bona fide top-tier pass rusher opposite Myles Garrett. However,
But he's not in Myles Garrett's league.
however,
No.
Myles Garrett has too many traits. Like Myles Garrett is pretty much faster than most of every defensive lineman. He's probably stronger than all of them. And the thing that makes Myles Garrett so good is his bend is so elite. Like Jadeveon Clowney, a lot of players play stiff. Right, and when you
Without the bend.
Without the bend, his bend is like he can transition his power and momentum from a crouching position to the quarterback. While think about it, he's 285, 280, whatever the case is. So if he's that low, his body has to support 285, exploding, right? But then he's underneath a 320-pound tackle. So look at the amount of pressure and torque that is with 320 above you, 285, you do the math. That's 700 some odd pounds that he's still able to turn and bend and keep his body and momentum upright.
It's like a dragster that can corner.
Right.
Like those are built for inline. He's got that inline straight speed, but he's got the agility of a pure athlete.
It's crazy.
And there's nothing more beautiful to me than when he comes wide around the edge and you see that bend in full display. And I love the still shots because oftentimes in video, it happens too fast to appreciate it. But when you see a still picture,
He's one of the only players where the stills might be equivalent to the actual video.
it's unbelievable.
His body is about 6 inches off the ground.
And you're asking yourself, how is he able to support that weight, to turn that corner without losing his feet? And the answer is, go look at his workout videos, his freakish workout videos.
And Von Miller's another guy who has similar, he's not as big, but similar bend, both recruited and coached by the same guy at A&M.
Wow.
Terry Price might be doing something right down in College
Yeah,
Station.
I think so. I mean, that's two good ones to have on your resume.